Hey everyone, it's Rob Stanley with the Ecom Wiz podcast, and today I have a very special guest and somebody I actually have been watching for quite a long time in the Amazon world. I have Kevin King. Kevin, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, man. It's nice to see you
Yeah,
again.
you too. So those who aren't familiar, and gosh, I don't know where you've been if you're not familiar with Kevin King, eight-figure seller, coach, speaker. I mean, probably any event you go to, he's usually speaking at. And absolutely honored to have him on the show. And I got some fun questions for him. And then, of course, we will cover Amazon and all the things that probably people are wondering about how you became so successful. And just to start it off, let's just dive right in, Kevin, if you're good with that.
Sure, sure.
So let's go with do you feel that some new sellers are looking for kind of like a quick win product? And what advice do you give to those people that are kind of just looking for that, hey, I want to find that product and win instantly?
Yeah, I think a lot of people they're misled by a lot of the trainings that are out there. The people doing webinars and the YouTube videos, and they show screenshots because they're trying to make it look compelling. That look how much money I made in such a short quick amount of time, and it's usually false information. They might have actually generated that money. You might see a screenshot from someone that shows you $50,000 in the first month or more. But what they don't tell you is that those were all rebates or giveaways, and they're actually upside down $20,000. They just make it look like, or they leave numbers out. They'll go through profit calculations and say, look, you can buy this for, there's a really popular guy out there right now that they'll show you, like, you can buy this for $2 and sell it for 20, and that's an $18 profit per unit. He leaves out the Amazon fees, he leaves out the storage, he leaves out the shipping, he leaves out the feedback software, he leaves out every other thing, and paints this rosy picture that just simply is not true. And so a lot of people get really misled that they think this is a field of dreams, and they can quit their job in a couple weeks and go sit on the beach and just check the app on their phone every time it rings like a cash register, and be set. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Everybody I've talked to that has been successful, they've put years in and kind of the grind, right? Like they've grinded it out, they've learned, they've gone through the process. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. And that's great information for any new seller or somebody who's either new to selling or looking to start selling on Amazon. So
I mean, I've got a company right now that we just started. I've got several Amazon businesses, and I have one right now with some partners that we started in April, and we've invested $1 million, in excess of $1 million in this company, and we're not taking a dime out. I'm not paying myself. I'm working 12, 14-hour days on it, 7 days a week right now to get it up and going quickly, and we're not paying ourselves, not even a salary, until sometime next year. So
absolutely.
that's, I mean, so and that's because we're working and turning everything back into it. So it, um, it depends on your goals. The number one other question that always comes up with this is, how much money do I need to start this business?
Mm,
You could start it with $1,000 or $5,000, but you need to temper your expectations, because if you're starting with a small amount like that, and anything under probably $50,000 is a small amount, you can definitely do it, but it's not going to take off. You're not going to be able to cash flow it. You're either going to have to come back, if you start with 5,000 and you're very successful, you're going to have to pretty quickly come back with another 10 or 20 or 50,000 to follow that up pretty quickly to keep it going. Or you're just going to have to say, look, I'm happy selling 5 or 10 units a day. That's all I need. I only need to make $500,000 profit a month, and I'll just grow this slowly. I don't have. I'm gonna keep my regular job, and I just need a little side hustle, side money. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's the reality of it. You'll hear people all the time say, "What can you start this with?" And so they'll hear, "Well, you can start it with $5,000." And then they think, okay, that's all I need, and $5,000 3 months from now, I'm going to be rich. And it just doesn't happen. I mean, there's the rare exception where someone gets a winning lottery ticket, but most people that started, and you'll hear even some of the bigger gurus say, "Yeah, we started this company with 20 grand, and now we're doing 4 million a year." They probably did start it with 20 grand, but what they don't tell you is that a month later, or 2 months later, 3 months later, they maxed out a credit card, got a loan, their rich uncle helped them out. Something happened. Their factory gave them terms. Something else happened to keep that going.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I started my business back in the late 90s with like 300 bucks, but just to cover what Kevin was saying, I was still working a full-time job and it really didn't go full-time on it for a year and a half. So I had to keep building on it. And any money that I made, I just kept putting back in the bank account. So the reality is I started the business with more money because I just kept putting that money in the bank to actually start the business. So you're 100% right on that. Great information. Um, how strong is the public's overall trust right now in Amazon platform for 2020? What's your opinion on that?
I think the public generally overall trusts Amazon. I think there's some people that just like with PayPal or just with eBay, they've had a bad experience. They have a bad taste in their mouth. Something was late. They got a bad product. They got something that was not authorized. It made them sick, or whatever. Got a counterfeit thing. So you're going to have some bad experiences. But generally overall, I think people really are favorable of Amazon. The public side, and most of them don't understand it like we do. We see all the little wrinkles and we see all the little twists and turns, and I was just talking to someone the other day about showing them some reviews, and they're like, "Oh, look, we got 4 verified reviews." And I was like, "Yeah, look at the little flag that's next to it. It says early review program." And they're like, "Yeah, well, what does that mean?" So that's the public doesn't understand. We understand what that means, that you paid for that review, basically, or you paid Amazon for that review, but they don't understand that. So we understand it differently, and we see things a little bit differently. And even me as a shopper on Amazon, I'll evaluate things different. My wife will come to me sometimes when she's buying something, and so if she's a little bit uncertain about it, she'll say, "Kevin, can you help choose the item, because I know how to look at the reviews properly to analyze the analyze the split of a parent child, see which ones actually got the reviews when people are reading all that kind of stuff that the public doesn't have." So they're not aware of some of the issues that we are. So they still trust it quite a bit as a
Yeah, I
whole.
agree with you. Living in this world, I definitely, when I go to buy stuff, I look at it quite a bit differently than most probably do, and I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, I
So,
do. Yeah,
yeah,
I analyze probably quite a bit differently. I was
yeah,
just buying something the other day, and the reviews were uh, there's quite a few negative reviews on it. There's about 20% negative review rate, and I was like, man, I'm not going to buy this, but it looks cool, but I'm not going to buy it. So I took it into Helium 10 and split the reviews up and looked at it. And it turns out these most of the negative reviews were on one particular variation of
mm,
this parent-child relationship that was not the one that I wanted. And the one that I wanted was mostly positive, but Amazon doesn't let you split that. So I had to use Helium 10. So I went ahead with the product, and it turned out to be okay.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I've run into a situation where I was looking to buy something personally, went way back into the reviews and found out that they were selling a completely different product. Like
mhm.
it was something like green tea or something like that, and now they built up the reviews on it, and then turned around and sold like wireless earbuds or something like that.
Yeah,
And I was just like, wow, how crazy is that? It just, that manipulation or things like that, it kind of gives Amazon kind of a bad taste to people who do buy on there, because they're manipulating the reviews on it, and people that do that. I mean, obviously, our hope is that Amazon catches those, or people do, and it ends up like going away, but not
you have to
always.
you have to remember though too, those things do happen, and every time it happens, the Wall Street Journal or someone writes a negative story and they get a quote from Amazon. Amazon's always like, "Yes, we're on top of it. That's just a small fraction of our audience that this happens to," and it's true. It's a
Yep.
very small percentage. I mean, we're hyper aware of it because we're 50, 100, 200,000 active. There's a couple million people selling on Amazon, but in the communities online that are discussing this, there's a couple 100,000 probably. We're hyper aware of it, but you got to remember there's 100 million plus people speaking. So we're just a little blip of the ones that are hyper aware of it. And then I think Amazon has probably an unwritten rule of there's a certain level of tolerance that when you get that big, there's just going to be, that stuff's going to happen, and
Yeah.
they'll do what they can, but sometimes it's pop a mole, and they just there's it's kind of like when you do an inspection of your products in China. That you have a certain threshold. If there's a few little strings hanging off on 3 of them out of 100, you may let it go. Versus if there's 7 of them are really damaged, you're gonna hold the shipment and check everything and fix it. Amazon might be kind of the same way. There's a threshold where, and to us, it affects us because we're sellers and we're like, this sucks. But to them, it's like it's no big deal. There's 99.5 million other people that don't care.
Yeah.
100 million or whatever. So you have to put
Yeah.
everything in perspective.
Yeah, and it really depends what that defect is, right? If it doesn't affect the overall workings of the product, then you're probably fine with it. But like you said, if it's smashed or has actual damage to it, then that's a whole different story.
Yep.
Well, look, we're not here to really, we're not trying to bash on Amazon. We're just trying to give everybody some information. So is it still a good time for people to sell? I mean, with all this crazy stuff going on, I see popping up on a lot of the Facebook groups and stuff like that. Is it a good time to start selling on Amazon? Like, should I start selling now, or did I miss the boat? Type thing. And what's your opinion on that, Kevin?
No, the best day to start on Amazon might have been yesterday, and the second best day is today. No, it's still a great opportunity. In 2013, 14, when this private label kind of model, 2012 really, this kind of little private label model that a lot of people are doing now started taking off and was being taught amazing, or the guys that kind of launched that. This model, it was a lot easier. There wasn't as much competition. You didn't have to do as much work. It's harder now. There's more work involved, but there's still tons of opportunities. And Amazon is growing and growing and growing. So in the past, you might see an old YouTube video. They say, look for something that's under I don't know, I'm making this up, a 3,000 BSR. And so you may be looking, well, I can't find anything I can sell under a 3,000 BSR that's not too competitive. Well, Amazon has grown so much, they're almost doubling year over the last couple of years. They've more than doubled. So what used to be a 3,000 BSR might be a 6 or 7,000 now. So you can have products in that that are not big sellers that are still making a nice healthy chunk of change, just because Amazon has grown so much. I have a product right now doing 5 figures a day that's got a BSR in the 5,000 to 6,000 range. And so and it's not a $500 item or something. It's not a $10 item, but it's under $100, and
Hmm.
it's still doing well. So the opportunity is great, as long as
Yeah,
you do your homework up front.
yeah, no, absolutely, I agree with you 100%. But what are some of the pitfalls that you've seen with new sellers when they do start to sell? I mean, I know there's probably multiple ones, and we talked a little bit about, yeah, people can start with smaller amounts or versus like a bigger amount. But like when people come to you or when you're, talking about selling on Amazon, I'm sure there's got to be kind of a theme that you see that new sellers like mistakes they make or pitfalls they run into when they start selling.
Probably number one is they're underfunded. They
Mm,
don't account for all their expenses. That's like buying the Freedom Ticket, the training that I do with for Helium 10. It's included free with anybody that has a Helium 10 account. That I go through. There's a detailed spreadsheet in there that's like 7 panels and super detailed to account for every little expense, trademarks. I mean, every little thing that most people don't. So it really paints a picture. We get a lot of questions like, well, the ROI in the spreadsheet is really low compared to what these other tools are telling me my ROI is. What's wrong with the spreadsheet? I said nothing. It accounts for everything. So a lot of people actually don't don't come into it with enough money, or they don't plan. They don't understand the cash flow down the road. What's going to really take to grow something.
sure.
The other one is people don't differentiate. They do their homework using Viral Launch or Helium 10 or whatever their tool of choice is for doing research, Jungle Scout, whatever, um, and they don't differentiate the product. They think differentiating the product is including a free PDF or changing the color or something, and you can't do that. You've got to make it your own. Just being another has been you might do okay for a month or two, but it's just a recipe for disaster. And so you have to differentiate. You have to put a little bit of a moat around you, and otherwise, your chances are pretty slim. And then a lot of people also they get dollar signs in their eyes and they just want a bestseller, and they don't always realize that, like I just said, sometimes something that sells 5 10 a day, instead of getting all greedy, is way better, less competitive, maybe doesn't take quite as much money to get everything up and going because you can work and turn the money faster. And you string together some of those instead of having one product have 10 that sell one product that sells 50 a day and it's super competitive and people are clipping at your heels. Have 10 products that sell 5 a day, and sit back with a lot less problems. You're not going to have a bestseller. You're not going to be able to brag to someone that, look, this product's doing $100,000 a month, but who cares? It's all about how much you put in your pocket at the end of the day, not how much sales you do.
That's 100% true. I think sometimes people are too focused on those other things like being a top seller. Hey, my focus when I ran my business is what did I make? What was my bottom line on that? How
Yep.
much did I net on that? Because I could sell, just like you said, I could have 5 items and be netting, 100 grand a month, and I could have 100 items netting 100 grand a month. Really, I'll take the 5 items because you're right, a lot less headache, a lot less customer service, usually. So yeah, that is some great information, and I'm glad you shared that because I think a lot of people don't necessarily look at that way, and but the people that have been in the game for a long time, they do, and that's something people should think about. Yeah, so let's keep going. I got tons more good questions for you.
Sure.
So that's great information. Thank you. Um, what about when you're researching a product and looking for kind of a good product? Let me give you a little more to that because I know you use the Helium 10 tool, but I'm kind of talking about like with me, I kind of had certain categories I looked in it and kind of looked at, and it was maybe because I had a little more experience in those. So do you kind of look at it that way too? That hey, based on past products you sold or similar type products, you'll kind of focus on a category to start investigating to find, another winning product going that route, or do you have something different you do?
Well, if it's a brand, if it's no, not necessarily. When I first launched doing the FBA model, I've been selling on Amazon for 20 plus years. But when I first launched the FBA model in 2015, I started with 5 different brands, 5 different
Mm.
categories. But now I have another, one of my other companies is very focused on the dog niche. Another one is very focused on something in the health niche. So those companies, I would not be selling automotive under in the one that's focused on the health niche, and I'm not going to be selling beauty products in the one that's focused on the dog niche. So yes, I will expand out, but I don't just look at it. Doesn't have to be if I'm selling a dog toy. It doesn't have to be another dog toy or a dog bowl or a dog leash. It can be something for the dog owner. So it can be. So I will expand out in that way. So if I notice that all my dog lovers that are buying let's say I'm selling a dog bowl, they're buying my dog bowl. These are also people who love to go hiking with their dog. I might, and I see a need, I might come up with some sort of a apparel item or something that's really not in the dog niche, but it's for the human. Here's I'm just making something up here. Here's a jacket that you wear. It has 20 different pockets on it, so you can keep all your different dog treats and poop bags and water and whatever. So that wouldn't
I
really
get you.
in the dog niche. That could be in the clothing niche. So I would expand out, but I go after an avatar or a person. And what else would that person buy that's along these same lines? Because I know if they're interested in dogs, they're probably going to buy other dog related stuff, but they might also have an interest in something else, and I can garner that. But that's usually you're going to have a bigger audience that you can segment it that way. So when you're first starting, if you don't have a niche and you're just like getting into this, I wouldn't limit yourself. I mean, the only where place I might limit myself is if some of the products are gated. It's about 30 some
Mm.
odd products on Amazon, or categories, sorry, 30 some odd categories, main categories, and there's a few of those require some special permission, and Amazon lists that for you on their website, and it's called gating. So you have to show proof that some of the extra proof to be in those, like automotive is one of them, for example. Um, and so I might skip that in the beginning if I'm brand new, and avoid a few of those just to avoid the extra work and hassle. Then later on, once you get your feet wet, then come back and maybe do something in those.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I mean, in the prior podcasts, I've always recommended probably don't get into the iPhone case accessory business right off the get go either. I
Yeah,
live that world, and it's very difficult, and it's probably not something you want to take on as your first product. Even though a lot of people see it very tempting because there's lots of cases sold, it's usually not a great first product, and you have to have a lot of money to really jump into that area now compared
yeah.
to in the past.
It's a cheap people attracted to it because they can buy these things for quarter or 50
Yeah,
cents and sell them for 20 bucks. But they don't realize that a lot of other people are seeing that too, and it's super ultra competitive in there. But like supplements, iPhone cases, anything that's a lot of stuff. If you go to Amazon, look at the top 100 BSR, your best sellers.
yeah,
Those are areas for a new person to stay away from. So if something's in the bestseller list, that category, I would not. If you're new, I mean, if you've got a lot of e-com experience, you've been doing this for 20 years and you really know, okay, maybe, and you come with some good money behind you, maybe you can go in there and compete. But if you're a brand new person, I would steer clear of anything that's in the top 100. Steer clear of anything that's given as a source of products from any training company. That says, here's a list of 100 hot products on Amazon or whatever, or some PDF, or don't run as fast as you can from those. Anything that someone shows you in a demonstration video, like the guys at Project X at Helium 10, they did a couple products and a case study, and then all of a sudden there's a bunch of other people doing the same thing. People just copy.
Yeah.
Don't do that. One of those people might actually be successful, but then you're going to have just a ton of people that are not. And you're going to end up losing money and say, this Amazon thing doesn't work.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And yeah, that Project X is great. Tim's awesome. Bradley's awesome. They do some great information over there. I watch it sometimes too. It's good to watch, and it's fun because to see how they're diving in so deep and giving real examples. That's really cool stuff. So for some of the sellers out there, do you kind of feel that Amazon is being responsive enough to the seller's needs right now? Because this shifts, right? It seems like it shifts. Like when things were with the coronavirus, it seemed like they were kind of like backing off and letting things go a little easier, right? Like they weren't necessarily suspending people on certain things. They just give you a warning. But do you kind of feel like that they're still kind of listening to the sellers, or where do you see that kind of going?
I don't think a whole lot has changed. I think Amazon is still a shoot first and ask questions later platform for the sellers. Everything is about the customer. Their whole focus is all customer. They don't care about the seller. You go to a China like JD or some of the other big markets over there. They're seller first, customer second. Amazon's the opposite, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a great, it makes me as a buyer know that anything I buy from Amazon, I can return it, or I'm not going to have a problem because I'm always going to win. But from a seller's point of view, they haven't been the best. And part of that is that they're just too big. I mean, there's just too many moving wheels, and the way they've compartmentalized everything. One department doesn't know what the other one's doing, or they cross over. I mean, for this new company, I had a product. I have a someone at Amazon that I work with. Not someone in seller support, but someone that actually at the Amazon offices in Seattle. A real human being with a brain that has access to my account and can accelerate stuff. But on one of these products, we've had it taken off 5 times by Amazon. Actually, the product this is a restricted product. You're not allowed to sell it, and just takes the whole listing down. And I go to seller support, and they're like, okay, it's just going to take a while. We've opened a ticket, or they give me some canned answer. I go to him. He's like, okay, let me accelerate this up. They get it back. He gets it back on. And then happens again, and then happens again. That's a function of them just being too big and growing too fast and too many working parts. So that's part of it, and it makes us feel like they don't care. I think they actually do care more than it appears, but they are vague on purpose a lot of times, so that gives them a little bit more flexibility and legal coverage. But I think what's happening now with the state of California and the state of Washington in the US and then Europe is going to force some changes. Because there is some stuff that's being done that's just not right, and I think you're going to see, brand analytics that came out last year was an example of that. They were accused in the press of doing a few things, and so well, here you go. We're going to give you a little bit more information, and I think you're going to start seeing more of that happening. They're going to start being a little bit more friendly, but it's just a beast. I mean, you got so many moving parts and so much going on. It's hard to manage. So there's always going to be some people that feel like Amazon doesn't care.
Yeah. And I think we might also see, some of the liability fall back on Amazon too. Especially in the 1P department. I mean, they had that whole thing going down with the, I think it was a dog leash or a pet leash, and they're, being, I don't know, sued or something, or somebody's going after Amazon because they couldn't go after the seller or something.
Yeah, they lost that case.
Oh, did they? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but we're seeing it creep back up again in different forms of, basically Amazon's being looked at for liability. I mean, I kind of look at it as, there's a reason, like on eBay, I'm selling my own product. Amazon or eBay is not selling my product for me. On Amazon via 1P, Amazon's now the seller of it. If they buy it from me and they put it in their warehouse and they sell it under their name or through them, then it kind of, they should be a little bit liable for it. I'm talking specifically on the 1P side.
And if you look at like Walmart or some any other big retailer, to get into Walmart on their stores or Walgreens or CVS or any of the big, Bed Bath and Beyond, you got to provide all kinds of documents of insurance that names them, that does. You got to cover them. And like you said, if someone buys a dog leash at Bed Bath and Beyond and it hurts them, they're probably going to sue Bed Bath and Beyond, and they're going to sue you as a manufacturer. Then you as a manufacturer are going to indemnify and help cover Bed Bath and Beyond in most cases. Amazon hasn't done that. I mean, if you go back for years, Amazon's actually had it in their seller agreement. If you read that big long thing when you sign up for an account, you have to have insurance. You have to have both product general liability, which is $500-$600 a year for most people. Some people it's a little bit more, and then you have to have product liability, which is completely different. A lot of people don't understand that. That can be thousands or tens of thousands of dollars per year, depending on what you're selling and how much you're selling. And most people don't have it. Amazon actually states in their seller agreement that if they give you 3 months. So once after 3 months of selling and of $10,000 or more. So if you're kind of small, they don't quite enforce it, but it says $10,000 or more for 3 months. You must send these documents to this address in Seattle, and you must do this and send all this insurance. And they haven't been enforcing that. And I think what you're going to see because of some of this is they're going to start to enforce that. And so I think they're just trying to figure out how are we going to do this. We got a couple million sellers. Are we going to suspend them all if they don't have the document? Are we going to just make all new people do it? Are we going to give them a grace period where they have 30 days to get this to us, or we're shutting down all their listings? Something like that's going to happen. It has to. And they may start vetting products a little bit differently. I mean, right now, I can put anything up on Amazon in 15 minutes from now, as long as my account's clean, it's live. And that's creating a problem with people selling. The EPA just about 10 days ago came down on Amazon and eBay for all these unauthorized products making all these claims for the coronavirus, saying that it kills bacteria or it's effective against coronavirus, or all these different claims that are completely untrue. None of those products have got official EPA certification. If I was selling those products on Walmart, they would make me send the EPA certifications. Amazon doesn't in most cases. So I think you're going to see a big tightening up coming that's may make some sellers uncomfortable.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that we're definitely going to see that, and a lot of different categories are going to get affected by that, and a lot of sellers will too. But I think overall it's a good thing. It protects. It's going to protect the sellers better. It's going to protect Amazon better. Well, not to shift away from this because I love what we're doing, but you got a lot going on, and I want to talk about some of these things you have going. Specifically, why don't you tell us about what you have going on? I think it's a new venture, new company with Steve Simonson. And why don't you let everybody in on kind of this thing, this new business you got going?
Yeah, so Steve and I partnered up in a company called Product Savants. It's at productsavants.com. And the whole idea of it is we see that the two biggest pain points for most people are sourcing a product, or finding a product to sell, what's a good opportunity, and then sourcing that product. A lot of people might go to Alibaba or Global Sources or get on a plane, go to Canton Fair, and that's great. You can find some sources that way, but that's not the best way. And so, and I'm very good at using the tools to find product opportunities, and I just have a little intuition on some of it, and so I can. Some people say they spent 6 weeks or 6 months looking, and I just can't find a product. There's just nothing out there, and I'm like, give me a couple hours, I'll find you something. And so that's my skill set. So I will go in and I'll find a product that looks like it has a good opportunity. And a lot of times I'm doing this for myself because I have several other companies selling on Amazon, but I might come across, like what you talked about earlier. I'm looking for dog products, but I come across something just in my research, just following a rabbit hole that's in the health and beauty niche. And I'm like, that looks pretty cool, but that just doesn't fit with what I'm doing. It's going to take some money, maybe I should do it, but that means I got to divert money from my dog stuff to this, and I'm losing focus. So let me stay focused on the dog thing, but I got this health and beauty thing. So then what I can do is I can then give that to Steve, Steve has a team in China that has collectively 100+ years of sourcing experience, a big team over there, because he's been importing hundreds of containers a month for a long time. So he's very, very well versed in the whole ways that everything works in China. Got a big team, so I give it to them. They can go out and then find the right factory for it. They're not just going to Alibaba. They have all the sources. They speak the language. They're getting the locals price, not the tourist price like we get. They're getting all that kind of stuff. They'll find the good factories. They'll vet the factories. They'll come back to us and say, here's what we can get it for. Here's the how you can differentiate it. Blah blah blah. And then Steve and I go through them again at that point. And about half or more of them fail. We're like, they just can't get it at the price we need it at, or MLQ is too high, or whatever it is. There's some reason that we back off of it. But then the ones that make it, then we create a report. I create a pretty detailed report, like these are the keywords. This is what we think you can do conservatively in sales. Here's at the competition. Here's the market. It's like a 15-page report on this product. And then you can actually buy that product. So we don't tell you at Product Savants what the product is. So we'll tell you this is in the health and beauty category. And we think it can do whatever, $100,000 a year in sales. You're going to need $20,000 investment to get into this, we think, comfortably, to have enough for your first couple inventory runs. Do you want this product? And if you say, yeah, I'm in health and beauty, I would love to have that product. And we tell you the size and all that, but we don't tell you what it is exactly. And then you take it, you sign some agreements, you pay a fee. It's a percentage of what the first year's expected income might be. And then we turn it over to you. And so we turn over the product to you, and with the report and the factory contact and everything. And then it's up to you to actually go out and take it from there. We're not involved in helping you launch it or write the listing or anything. It's up to you. So we don't want new sellers. It's only for people who are experienced. So you have to have some experience selling on Amazon, because we get a little royalty on the backside. So we want you to be successful, and that's where we spend a lot of time and put a lot of resources into it, and we're counting on you being able to take this and run with it. So that's how we cover our cost of doing this. And so that's what Product Savants is. And it's we launched it in March of this year, and earlier this year, if you're listening to this in 2020, and it's done very well.
Yeah, and I think I watched when you guys first initially came out and said, "Hey, this is what we're doing." I jumped on that video and I was watching. I was like, "Wow, that is a great idea!" Like, I mean, I wish I thought of that in the past, because it is absolutely awesome. I come across stuff all the time that I'm just like, I just don't have time. Right? It's a great concept. I got all the resources for it. I mean, I've been to 100 different factories. I know where I can go get it, but I just don't have the time to deal with it. And yourself and Steve, same way, right? Everybody's got stuff going on, but I think it's an amazing idea. It's great for somebody who's been around and knows what they're doing, and they just maybe are lacking a little bit of the research and just need a product to add, and they're in that specific category. I know you when I talked to Steve, I think you guys had the first initial one somebody picked up. Have you done any? How many have you done since you guys launched?
Yeah, we have there's about 15 or 20 out there right now.
Nice.
Yeah, and we did one guy as a beta test, two people actually as a beta test. We announced it that we're going to do something like in early of 2019, and it took us about a year before we actually came out and made it public. But yeah, we had a couple of people do a beta just to make sure. We want to prove the concept, make sure we were not being foolish here. And he's come back to us for more. He's extremely happy.
That's awesome.
With but he was able to take it and modify it a little bit and do it, and he's got a whole new brand as a result of it. So that's great.
That's really incredible, and I love that story, and it's such a great idea. What about you gave a little bit on the process of picking the person. Do you guys follow up on that? Like, do you verify funds? Are you checking this person's background? I mean, kind of what you do to pick the right person for this category or product.
Well, yeah. So if I found a beauty product and we tell you it's doing 100,000 a year, we give you the basic stats, and you say you want it, you might pay us $5,000 or something up front. You pay that $5,000, then you're sent a contract. The contract spells out everything that the reports that you're going to have to give to us and how everything works. If you have any questions about that, we answer them, and then you sign that. And then once you've signed that, then Steve usually will give you a call and actually make sure, he can tell in 10 or 15 minutes of talking to you that you actually know what you're doing. And we've actually refunded money on 3 or 4 people. And some people are like, no, don't worry, I got this. I'm good. But we're like, this is going to take a little bit more. It's better. We don't want to take your money. So then once we don't require like, hey, send us screenshots, send us all this, send us a finance. It's not that kind of in-depth check, but talking to somebody whether they know what they're doing or not in this space. You can ask the right questions, and how they answered can tell you a lot. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of how we vet. And so far it's done well. This is not thousands of products, so it's manageable. There are other companies out there that do this. There's 4 or 5 of them that you can go to them for a product for a lot less than what we're charging. But it's just, I've seen some of the reports and some of the stuff they do, and I would be careful.
Yeah. Yeah. On average, how much time goes into selecting this winning product between you and Steve when you guys are getting it together? I'm sure, some you might find faster or have a little more knowledge of, and then others you have to do a little more research. But on average, how much time do you guys put in to kind of find this winning product?
I've never added it up exactly, but I think
Yeah.
for every single product, I mean, if I just had to guess, between my time, Steve's time, the time where we're talking about it together, and his team's time, the sourcing team's time, it might be 100+ hours.
Wow.
And this is people that know what they're doing. On top of it, I'm not spending. It's not 100 of my I'm total.
Yeah.
It's got to be into the hundreds of hours, and from experienced people. So you're getting some of the best, some of the best of the best to take a look at this. It's not a guarantee it's going to work. I mean, so far, knock on wood, we haven't had something blow up on us. But sometimes somebody just may not execute, or the market conditions could change. So it's not a guarantee. But on my personal products, I typically have about an 80% success rate on the product. So we're hoping that we can hit that same success rate on Product Savants. But like, for example, one of the ones that we announced back in March that someone gobbled up, it was right place, right time for them. We had actually found that product in September of last year, and it was a good product then. And then when the coronavirus hit, it became an exceptionally good product. It wasn't face masks or PPE or anything like that, but it just was in a space that blew up. So that person that got that had a huge leg up. And I'm hopefully they're out now, because they should be killing it.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, we're going to shift a little bit here on the podcast to your background, and I want to talk a little bit about it. I've lived some of that time frame in that era, but why don't you kind of let everybody know what was e-commerce like in the late 90s and early 2000s, and kind of how is it different than it is now?
Yeah, I mean, I started.
That's a big question.
Yeah, it was. I mean, first the websites looked pretty bad. If you go back and even look in the Wayback Machine of like
Yeah.
Amazon's, is they look pretty bad. There's a bunch of text everywhere, not too much pictures, a bunch of flash video. That was a popular thing back then.
Yeah.
I remember, you didn't have video content at all. I mean, if you did, it was postage stamp size, and it would stop and stutter and stop and stutter, and audio sucked. A real audio player. But yeah, I was I remember even when Google started, I remember someone was like, I was using Alta Vista and some of these other search engines, and
That's me.
someone's like, hey, go look at this Yahoo thing. It's like a plain white page with a search bar said Google or something. I'm like, what the hell is this crap?
Yeah.
And then, I'm used to directories and lists and whatever, and type something in. I was like, oh, I found some cool stuff. I remember when Google now makes their money on the advertising, the clicks. But before they did that, there was something. What was it called? Bid Plus? No, what was it? Shoot, I'm drawing a blank on the name. There was another company, Go-To. Yeah, that was it.
Oh,
Go-To.
go-to. Yeah.
Go-To. That actually you could bid, and it was a penny clicks. Penny, 2 cents, I think 5 cents. You're like, oh, shoo, I'm spending a lot of money, 5 cents a click. That started doing this advertising platform. So selling e-commerce back then was different. I mean, I think I sold my first thing. I think I opened my Amazon buyer account in 1999. Every time I log into my order history, it says, go back and look. It's interesting to go back and see what I bought 20 something years ago. Um, and then eBay around the same time. And when I first started selling, I wasn't doing storefronts through those. I would sell on eBay, I think I upgraded my CD collection, was it my DVD collection to Blu-ray, and sold all my old Blu-ray, old DVDs. I remember, I think switching the CDs from record albums or something, selling a bunch of those on there, and I would go onto Amazon, and they had the sell yours, and so I would sometimes sell on somebody else's listing,
Oh yeah.
my used copier or my used whatever it might be, um, and but then I also had a storefront, my own website, but it was nothing compared to what you can do now. Is super simple.
Do you remember what platform you had your own website on by any chance?
I know. What was we developed our own. We had a newsletter service, and we had some photo stuff, and a membership site, and we had like 20 servers. I remember each of these servers was like $4,000 a piece, and they were, little 350s or something, slow as heck, and we had to string them all together. And you didn't have all the raids and all the systems you have now, the blade servers and everything. And our ISP bill was like 8,000 a month for a T1 line, or some crazy freaking number like that. And we had a business that we would get sometimes. Back when Howard Stern was on regular radio before
Yeah.
he went to Sirius, we had some guests go on his show a few times, and it would just blow up our websites. I mean, they would just literally crash. We'd have to have our guy standing at Rackspace or whatever the place was back then,
Yeah.
flipping the switch because we couldn't do it remotely, to restart the machine. It was crazy. And I remember we used to have a newsletter. We sent out emails, and people would sign up for this newsletter, and we would send them out on the 24 hours a day. Every hour we'd stagger them out, and people could choose the time they got them. And we were sending out 300,000 emails a day, and this is before spam. So everything was getting through. Open rates were crazy, ridiculous, and we could sell almost anything through there. And I remember even back in the day figuring out what day is the best day of the week for someone to get an email. So I figured it out. It was Thursdays. And into Friday morning, because I guess Fridays people got paid or something. So I did all these testing, and so we would always send out our promotional stuff on Thursday nights. So whatever we were trying to sell, whatever the sale of the week was, would go out on Thursdays, because that's, for whatever reason, Thursday night into Friday was the best day to make sales. I don't think that's true anymore in the day of Amazon, but it was back then. So yeah, it was quite a bit different.
It was completely different. I lived that era too, and it's funny all the names you bring up, Rackspace and stuff. Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, with us on the emails, we were always selling products through our website, so we found that it was always the first Monday of the month because everybody got paid on the first, and usually we waited till whatever that first Monday was, and then I think it was the 15th or 16th of the month was always really good. I can't remember. It's been a while now, but yeah, I'm sure those things are not quite the same. So
Well, it's just like in direct mail. I mean, my background is direct mail before all the internet stuff. I did a lot in, what people call junk mail or whatever. Um, and that, which still works today, by the way, it's highly effective still today. A lot of people think it's a dinosaur, but it still works. But back then, you'd always want a time to be right after a holiday. And I think it's probably still true today, or if you even pay attention to your own stuff, here in the States, right after a holiday like Memorial Day or July 4th or something, look the day after and notice how the 1 or 2 days after, normally you'll see an uptick in the amount of advertising mail you get, because it's scientifically proven that people are buying right after a holiday. And right before the holiday, you won't, unless it's very holiday focused, unless it's a Memorial Day or July 4th sale or something, you won't see something before it, but right after it. And there's a reason for that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things for us, because I don't know if I got to tell you, but I had an iPhone business. So we were one of the iPhone parts businesses, and we're at one point the biggest iPhone parts seller provider in the United States.
Oh,
and
wow.
we always found that Sunday evening and Monday were the biggest sales. And we started figuring out it's because people would drop and break them on Saturdays or Sundays and start looking for how do I repair it or where do I find a part for it. So yeah,
Hmm.
some of that's knowing your market, right? Like
Yeah.
knowing your market really helps.
Oh
And
yeah.
one of the things I wanted to ask you though is, I'm sure you've had lots of mistakes, right? Like we've all made mistakes through businesses, but kind of what is one of the biggest ones you kind of can remember, and what did you learn from it that helped you going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I had to declare bankruptcy in 1998,
Oh wow.
and mostly for business reasons. And we had a business that was doing well, but we started with no money, and so we were having to cash flow it. And so the way I cash flow it is I had 16 employees or something at the time. Is I didn't pay Uncle Sam their money. You know, you have employees, and let's say they're making $500 a week, and you're taking the taxes out. You know, and so they're only getting whatever 350, and that 150 you're supposed to send it to the government, and then for Social Security you're supposed to match a little bit more. I didn't send that.
Ooh,
I used it to cash flow to buy more inventory and to keep the lights on and everything, and figuring that okay, I'll catch it up, don't worry. But I couldn't quite catch it up. And so after about a year, when our employees started filing tax returns, getting refunds, and the IRS is saying, here's your $3,000 refund, but wait a second, we're giving you $3,000 and we never got anything over here from Kevin. This doesn't jive. They came knocking. And so when they came knocking, I had to go and confront that. I couldn't just run away. And so the way I was able to confront that is I just had to declare bankruptcy, because that kind of froze it, and you still had to pay it, but that bought me time. And so that bankruptcy messed up my credit. So my personal credit, because the business was a sole proprietorship.
yeah.
So that taught me, make sure you do you set your business up properly, make sure you do all your protections in case something personal happens, and you can keep business and personal separate. And it screwed up my credit for like 10 years. I couldn't buy. It was difficult to buy a house. It was difficult to get much of a credit line anywhere. Uh, since that was 20 some odd years ago, 23 years ago or whatever it is now. It's all Everything's good now, but that was a big learning lesson that if I got into a bind again, I would do everything I could to avoid filing a bankruptcy. I know the laws have changed some since then too, so I think it's a little different now as well.
Yeah. Wow. That's a biggie. That's definitely a biggie. Hear about businesses closing, but like something like bankruptcy, that's tough. Yeah, that's definitely tough. Now, I mean, you sent over your bio and I was reading through it, and I did not know this personally, but I do know you do coaching, and you have quite a few people that you do coaching with. And I think if I read it correctly, like between all the people that you kind of coach, they're doing like a $500 million in sales. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's actually probably more than that. It's probably a little bit older figure, but yeah, I mean, I do the Freedom Ticket, which is a free course if you have a Helium 10 membership, which is for new people. It's
Yeah.
aimed at new people or people that just started out, and some experienced people really enjoy it too. And then I do the Helium 10 Elite,
Mhm.
which used to be called Illuminati back when it started, and that's more for advanced sellers. It's a monthly training that I come on, I do some stuff, and then we bring on some guests. It's every single month for the more advanced sellers, and then I do the $1 billion Seller Summit, which is my own personal event. It's 50 to 100 people. There's I had to cancel the one that was scheduled here coming up shortly because of the coronavirus one, but we did two last year, and they were both held here in Austin, and the average in that room was about $8-9 million a year on Amazon. So it's some big hitters. One guy was doing over 100 million. So I bring in top speakers from all over the world, and we meet for 3 days and network. And it's not your normal conference. It's a little bit different than the average conference you might go to, but it's all pretty high level people. So yeah, if you added all those up, um, I'm sure it's over $500 million.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. I have heard of the conference, and just some amazing people go there and show up there, and you have to speak there. That's really cool. So so kind of speaking of speakers, Kevin, who do you kind of look up to in the e-commerce world? Like who are sort of your mentors, or if they're not necessarily directly a mentor, people that you like to listen to and kind of find out what knowledge they're giving out that you can maybe learn from?
I mean, in the Amazon space, I don't really have a mentor, but the person I think is the smartest in this space is Tryon Turku.
Okay.
I think he's one of the smartest people in this Amazon space. So I pay attention to what he has to say and what he shares, both publicly and privately. Um, as far as in the general e-commerce space, I don't
Or
have
business space.
or business space.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I have. I don't read a lot of bios or anything like that on people. I don't follow. You know, some people say, "Oh, I follow Elon Musk," or "I follow." I don't do any of that. So yeah, I guess I can't say that I have someone that's my idol or that I watch their move or try to mimic in the space. I mean, there's yeah, I don't. I just kind of keep my head down, do my own thing. And, you know, I'll read stuff, but I'm not particular. I'm an information whore. I love to get information, and read different things, but uh, I don't read a lot of books. I have a lot of books that I should read probably, but I just don't have time to read them.
That you just segued into my next question perfectly, Kevin. So, what areas in e-commerce do you feel is your weakest, and how do you solve, them not being your weakest, or how do you solve it?
And e-commerce, I mean, the thing, I don't know if it's my weakest, is the thing I hate is the accounting side.
Ah, there you go.
So I understand it. You know, I have a degree in business from Texas A&M. I took got A's in accounting, so I understand it, but I just hate it. You know, all the bookkeeping and all that stuff. So that's the side that I don't like, but the rest of it, been doing this so long. I enjoy it. I enjoy the challenge. I enjoy it. So I don't, I, I can't say that there's a huge weakness. I'm pretty good at qu- quite a few things.
Yeah. Well, obviously, you've been around a long time, and you've kind of dealt with a lot of different areas. So you got to have kind of a little bit of each area. You have to have a little bit of knowledge in just to make sure everything's held together. So completely understand that. Well, Kevin, thank you for being on the Ecom Wiz podcast. I really appreciate it. And before we go, please plug anything you'd like. You're welcome to. How do they get a hold of you? Talk about like your coaching, any events that you're doing, even if they're online that you have coming up.
Yes, I mean, probably the best way is just go to amzmarketer.com, and that'll redirect to my Facebook, and you just can follow me there. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't, the coaching and the events and stuff, you know, Billion Dollar Seller Summit, or you can go to Helium 10 and check out the stuff I do there, or if you're an experienced seller, go check out Product Savants, that Steve and I do. And yeah, if not, that's cool too. We'll I'll be fine.
Well, I'll put the links down in the description for you. And again, Kevin,
Cool.
thanks for being on the Ecom Wiz podcast. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me, Robbie.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and for more information, please visit feedbackwiz.com.